Alright, Second Life, building, absolute basics. This time we're going to cover aligning objects to the grid. Now this is an absolutely essential skill if you're planning on building something technical or something that has to be precisely articulated. There are two ways to align objects to the grid. I prefer the manual method, which is to go into the Objects tab and look here at the position. This is the absolute position of the object relative to the grid. You can see up here that the coordinates are also listed. You can see that these coordinates are not accurate. If you want to align something precisely to the grid, the method I use is just to round these off, and I usually make this 23 meters. Depending on the elevation of the land you're on, that's going to be different, of course, but basically you just want it high enough to where you can get underneath it to edit, because if something is close to the ground, for some reason Second Life doesn't let you go underneath the object to edit, which is kind of annoying. Alright, so that's the manual method of aligning an object to the grid. If you want to do it the more automatic way, Second Life has a built-in grid system. You can see every time I move an object along an axis that there are gray lines on the top and the bottom, essentially guides that represent the grid. And in order to snap an object to the grid, all you have to do is move your pointer while you're dragging up or down until you hit those lines, and then your object will snap to the grid. Now, if you want to snap an object absolutely, you're going to have to do that 3 times, once for each axis. So here I'm on the x-axis. I just snapped the x-axis. Now I'm going to snap the green y-axis, and then finally the blue z-axis. So now my object is positioned, as you can see, absolutely once again on the grid. Now the reason for aligning objects is manifolds. Probably the most important reason is because when you're doing a precision build, you want to be taking full advantage of the geometry of your objects. Now that can become quite complex, and if you don't have them aligned properly, like for example here you can see there's a very small gap between there, it can really play havoc with your texturing and your relational object positioning. Another problem that can happen, which causes the same undesirable results, is overlapping objects. Now you can see with these unselected that it's really hard to tell that they're overlapping, and that can be very problematic. I'll give you a quick example of that by selecting these two faces and changing the texture. As you can see, it gives you this really sort of ugly, flickery texture effect. That's because they're occupying the same space. So in order to avoid that, of course, you're going to want to align things to the grid. And that's pretty much the basics of grid alignment. I hope that helps.